Stories and Documentary Network. For centuries, the land of Egypt has been shrouded in mystery and intrigue, captivating the minds of scholars, archaeologists, and historians alike. At the heart of this ancient civilization lies the enigmatic figure of the pharaoh, who ruled as both a political leader and a divine entity. This documentary will delve deep into the religious rituals and beliefs surrounding the pharaohs, providing an unprecedented insight into the sacred world of these Egyptian rulers. To understand the religious rituals of the pharaohs, one must first comprehend the unique role they played in Egyptian society. Unlike other monarchs, the pharaoh was considered a god on earth, an intermediary between the divine and the mortal realms. This divine status was reinforced through various ceremonies and rituals, which served to solidify the pharaoh's connection to the gods and ensure the prosperity of the Egyptian people. The pharaoh was believed to be the son of the sun god Ra, and his role was to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order and balance in the universe. This divine mandate extended to all aspects of Egyptian life, from the regulation of the Nile's annual flooding to the administration of justice and the maintenance of the country's borders. In order to fulfill these duties, the pharaoh was required to perform a series of religious rituals, which served to maintain his divine authority and secure the favor of the gods. One of the most significant religious rituals associated with the pharaoh was the coronation ceremony. This elaborate event marked the beginning of the pharaoh's reign and served to legitimize his divine authority. The ceremony took place in multiple locations, including the temple of the god Amun at Karnak and the sacred city of Memphis. At the temple of Amun, the pharaoh would undergo a series of purification rites, symbolizing his transformation from a mortal to a divine being. These rites often involved the use of water, incense, and sacred oils, which were believed to cleanse the pharaoh of any impurities and prepare him for his divine role. Upon entering the temple, the pharaoh would be greeted by the high priest of Amun, who would present him with the royal regalia, including the double crown, which represented the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The double crown consisted of the red desert crown of Lower Egypt and the white crown of Upper Egypt, which were joined together by a golden strip adorned with the cobra and vulture goddesses, Wadjet and Nekbet. The pharaoh would then be led into the sanctuary, where he would present offerings to the god Amun and receive his divine blessing. This act served to confirm the pharaoh's divine status and reaffirm his role as the god's earthly representative. After the initial coronation, the pharaoh would later participate in the Sed festival, a ritual designed to rejuvenate his divine power and ensure his continued rule. The festival, which took place every 30 years, involved the pharaoh running a ceremonial course to demonstrate his physical prowess and symbolically reenact the unification of Egypt. The Sed festival was a grand spectacle, attended by dignitaries, officials, and commoners from all corners of the kingdom. The festival began with the pharaoh's procession to the temple, where he would be greeted by the high priest and offered various sacred objects, including the crook and flail, symbols of the pharaoh's divine authority. Following this, the pharaoh would embark on the ceremonial run, which involved running between two sets of markers, representing the boundaries of Upper and Lower Egypt. This act was believed to reaffirm the pharaoh's control over the entire kingdom and demonstrate his physical vitality and divine power. The pharaoh's daily life was filled with religious rituals, aimed at maintaining the balance between the divine and mortal realms. These rituals often took place within the temples, where the pharaoh would perform various acts of devotion to the gods. One of the most important daily rituals involved making offerings to the gods within the temple sanctuaries. The pharaoh, as the divine intermediary, would present food, drink, and other precious items to the god's statue, ensuring their continued favor and protection. These offerings were believed to sustain the gods and maintain their power, and they often took the form of foodstuffs, such as bread, meat, and fruit, as well as precious materials, such as gold, silver, and lapis lazuli. The pharaoh would also present the gods with incense, which was believed to purify the air and create a divine atmosphere within the temple. Another daily ritual, known as the King's Morning, saw the pharaoh being symbolically reborn each day. During this ceremony, the pharaoh would be purified, anointed with sacred oils, and adorned with the royal regalia, reaffirming his divine status. The king's morning ritual took place in the palace, where the pharaoh would be awakened by his attendants and led to the bathing chamber. There, He would be purified with water from the sacred Nile, before being anointed with sacred oils and dressed in the royal regalia. This ritual served to reaffirm the pharaoh's divine status and prepare him for the day's duties. The religious rituals surrounding the pharaoh did not end with his death. In fact, the Egyptians believed that the pharaoh's soul would continue to play an active role in the divine realm, making the proper burial and veneration of the deceased ruler of utmost importance. The process of mummification was a sacred ritual designed to preserve the pharaoh's body for eternity. This intricate process involved removing the internal organs, treating the body with natron, and carefully wrapping it in linen bandages. The mummification process began with the removal of the pharaoh's internal organs, which were believed to be the source of impurity and decay. These organs were carefully preserved and placed in separate canopic jars, which were then sealed and buried with the mummy. The heart, however, was left in the body, as it was believed to be the seat of the soul and the source of the pharaoh's divine power. Following the removal of the organs, the body was washed and purified with water and spices, before being covered in natron, a naturally occurring salt that served to dehydrate and preserve the body. The body would remain covered in natron for a period of 40 days, during which time it would undergo a process of desiccation and preservation. Once the body had been fully preserved, it would be wrapped in linen bandages, which were coated with a resinous substance to create a protective shell around the mummy. This process involved the use of hundreds of meters of linen and could take up to 70 days to complete. Once the mummification was complete, the pharaoh would be interred in a lavish tomb, filled with treasures and artifacts to aid him in the afterlife. The burial would be accompanied by elaborate funerary rituals, including the recitation of spells and the performance of sacred dances. The tomb of the pharaoh was designed to serve as a permanent resting place for the ruler's mummy and a sanctuary for his divine spirit. These tombs were often located in remote, desert locations, such as the Valley of the Kings, in order to protect them from tomb robbers. The construction of the pharaoh's tomb was a massive undertaking, involving the labor of thousands of workers and the use of advanced engineering techniques. The tomb was designed to replicate the pharaoh's palace and contained numerous chambers and corridors, filled with treasures and artifacts to aid him in the afterlife. The burial chamber itself was located deep within the tomb, and it housed the pharaoh's sarcophagus, a stone coffin that was often adorned with intricate carvings and inscriptions. The sarcophagus was surrounded by various funerary objects, including statues, jewelry, and household items, which were believed to provide the pharaoh with comfort and sustenance in the afterlife. The funerary rituals that accompanied the burial of the pharaoh were elaborate and highly symbolic. They began with the procession of the mummy from the palace to the tomb, which was accompanied by a retinue of priests, officials, and mourners. The mummy was transported on a decorated funeral bier, which was carried on the shoulders of the priests, who were accompanied by musicians and dancers. Upon arriving at the tomb, the mummy would be placed in the burial chamber, and the chamber would be sealed, effectively entombing the pharaoh for eternity. The funerary rituals then focused on the consecration of the tomb and the invocation of the gods to protect the pharaoh's soul and ensure his safe passage to the afterlife. After the pharaoh's death, he would be venerated as a divine ancestor, with his memory being preserved through rituals and offerings. These rites served to maintain the connection between the living and the dead and ensured the continued protection and guidance of the deceased pharaoh. The cult of the royal ancestors was an important aspect of Egyptian religion, and it involved the veneration of the deceased pharaohs as divine beings who continued to play a role in the cosmic order. This cult was maintained by the living pharaoh, who would perform regular rituals and offerings to his divine ancestors in order to secure their favor and protection. These rituals often took place in special temples or chapels, which were dedicated to the worship of the royal ancestors. The pharaoh would present offerings of food, drink, and incense to the statues or stelae of his ancestors, and he would recite prayers and hymns in their honor. These rituals served to maintain the connection between the living and the dead and ensured that the deceased pharaohs continued to play a role in the divine order. Through an examination of the religious rituals associated with the pharaohs, we have gained a deeper understanding of the sacred world that lay at the heart of ancient Egyptian culture. From the elaborate coronation ceremonies to the daily acts of devotion and the complex rites surrounding death and burial, these rituals provide a fascinating glimpse into the beliefs and practices of a civilization that continues to captivate and inspire us today. As we reflect on the religious rituals of the pharaohs, we are reminded of the enduring power of faith and the deep connection between the human experience and the divine. These rituals serve as a testament to the enduring legacy of the pharaohs and the enduring power of the sacred in human culture. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on our latest documentaries.